The Mango After Hours podcast is provided for general information, personal use, and entertainment purposes only. We do not verify or independently confirm stories, claims, or statements made by guests. The views and opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the host, producers, sponsors, or affiliates. Nothing shared on this podcast should be considered legal, medical, financial, or professional advice. Always consult a qualified professional before making decisions based on this content. Mention of specific brands, products, individuals, or businesses does not imply endorsement. All trademarks are the property of their respective owners. If you disagree with something shared on this podcast or believe there is another side to the story, reach out. We may invite you to share your perspective in a future episode. Now sit the fuck down and enjoy the show.
Let's go.
What's up, people? Welcome to episode 22 of the Mango After Hours podcast. Once again, why is it after hours? Because we close the store and then we invite a guest into the show. Before we disclose who our guest is, I'd like to give a little bit of a shout out to our sponsors. I'd like to shout out Think LED, best LEDs out there. 4-spectrum tunable lights. I'll never go back to single spectrum. It changed the game. Spectrum tunability shaves anywhere between 7 to 11 days. Strains, for strains, most candy strains full color, we get 6.6 harvest a year. That is 20% increase in the same space. Why wouldn't you want to buy an LED that has 4-channel, fully tunable, with the next sponsor, Trollmaster? It is the most well-known controller in the cannabis industry worldwide. It is really the future of intelligent farming. I'd like to thank Mango Juice, because if you're not juicing, you're losing. Mango Juice is the only nutrient that we use at the Mango Tech store. Lastly, this beautiful place for backdrop for a podcast, Mango Tech store. And thank me for providing the space. Today, we have the one and only banana dealer. Dealing bananas, we have Nick Bryan from... Nick Bryan with a B, not with an R, and he's the banana dealer, and he is Golden State Banana. What's up, Nick?
What up, bro?
What's going on, dog?
Hey, man, good to see you.
How did we meet?
Man, well, I've definitely followed you since the old days of posting those garages.
Okay.
And
I was trying to think, how did we meet?
But actually meeting, I think just seeing each other, either Vegas or all over the industry. I don't remember exactly when it was, but it's been some years.
All I know is that I definitely run into you all over the place, including fucking Czech Republic.
Yeah.
I mean, you're all over Europe. You're walking around, and I'm walking around. I say, "Hey, what's up, Nick? What's going on?" We discuss a couple of things, and you actually happen to be my neighbor too.
Yep.
We both live in El Dorado Hills here in California.
Yes, sir.
Nice. And then I just found out. I thought you were, like I said, when people come on a podcast, they fill out a questionnaire that fills me in on the guest. I've known a lot of people for a long time, but we don't know sometimes of the personal things, where they were born and stuff like that. And news to me, I didn't know that you weren't born in California. You were born in Indiana.
Yeah, man, Indy roots.
Indiana, all right. That's pretty cool. It's different.
Yeah.
Different. I had a couple of friends from Indiana. So how does a guy from Indiana end up in California? Talk to me. Did you sell weed, grow weed? When did you make the move? I know that you moved to Santa Cruz, but tell us a little bit about Indiana. What happened in Indiana that made you say, you know what, I got to get out of the state?
I grew up in Indiana, and I started growing weed in Indy around '97.
Okay.
I'd already been selling weed since I was like 13 or something. So, but that's what it was. I just it happened to be my OGs grew weed, right? So. Smacking the cornfields. None of them back then. Back then, we would rent houses and veg. Cut thousands of clones for the summertime to go smack 100 or 200 plants a day in the cornfields, right? Starting in June, July, August, right? And just smacking the fields.
That's a fucking new one. I've never heard that one yet. That's a new one. Okay,
Yeah.
So you guys rented houses not to really grow
Yeah,
weed.
and everybody was scared to flower back then.
Okay.
And that's what it was. We were smacking the cornfield. So all the OGs that I grew up under, that's what they were doing, right? And then, so back then you're talking '90s, right? So brickweed days. So it was fire ass shit coming out of the cornfields that would be seasonal, and then the rest of the year it was, bricks from Mexico.
So it was full term
Yep.
weed outside on native soil.
Yep.
Native soil in the middle of the cornfields.
Yep.
Did you guys clean like a patch out, or like you kind of did mix?
Yeah. No, you'd go in and clean out a nice little circle.
Okay.
And fill it up, and those cornfields are already juiced, right? They're juiced with nitrogen. they're already, you know, the soil's all perfect, like you said, all dug up. So just pull out a bunch of those, a bunch of stalks, build a nice little circle in, and then you're talking corn as far as the eye can see, right? So you go down, like there's no house, you're not seeing a farmhouse, you're not seeing anything. You just go down. Back then you're counting telephone poles, right? We're 50 telephone poles and, you know, 200 yards in, right? And, you know, so, yeah, you know, the corn, it rains there every couple weeks. It, you know, so you really didn't have to do much, right? If it didn't rain, you'd go out with some buckets of water and go.
Right, you guys would look at the weather and figure out, say, hey, guys, it hasn't rained in a while, you know, these things are going to die.
Yeah.
You go over there and fuck the corn, let's go freaking feed these plants.
Yeah,
They
and
need
it's
some
not
water.
like California where, you know, you got human labor out picking the corn around. They're just, you know, a farmer on a giant ass tractor. Yeah.
Combine, yes.
Yeah.
So, did you guys know the farmer?
No.
No, you didn't know the farmer. Okay.
No.
So how does so then that means the corn had to be kind of high.
Yep.
And you go over there, and then how big were the plots? How big was the plots? Was it's like a 20 plant plot, you know, 50
No, about
plant
100
plot?
plants.
100,
Smack 100 plants.
100. So you do 100 here, 100 there.
Yep.
And then it's interesting. Obviously, I mean, this is fucking pretty cool because you guys, what we called that back then, and it's not a bad name. We called that mids, you know, because like you said, you had the brickweed that came either from Jamaica or Mexico.
Yep.
That was compressed, and then you had the indoor that was like skunk, sometimes Thai stick that came in from Thailand.
Yep.
You know, and there's very few people in the 90s that grew indoor. You know, in Florida we had some people that grew indoor in the mid 90s. Shit, even the early fucking 90s, late 80s, early 90s, we had some indoor guys in our area that, you know, I'm thinking back. It's funny you think back of, you know, 1992. Where was I? Well, I was living in this house. Was I selling weed, indoor weed out of that house? Yes, I was. Then you go, okay, a little further back. So yes, late 80s, early 90s, there was guys that were growing indoor. So then you guys are kind of growing mids. Mids to people nowadays is bad weed. Back then, mids was good weed, you know, affordable weed that had no seeds, that was fluffy because all the guys, like I said, you know, they have a house, they have a mom, they're making cuts. You know, they're doing cuts, so whatever they set out there in that cornfield is all female plants, and then, you know, without seeds. You know, it's all, you know. Yeah. So.
And that's what it was, skunkweed. So we were growing skunk back then.
Okay.
And a very few people, like you said, there were a few people who were flowering, and I would do stuff like, you know, and back then, kind of like I am now, like I just didn't give a fuck. So people back then, remember, scared to go to the hydro store, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, I'll go to the hydro store, I'll get that shit, I'll buy the lights, I'll buy the stuff. You know, so I'd go in with a couple of my other friends who were growing, and they were growing indoor back then, and I'd say, all right, I'll buy, you know, a light or two. You let me buy whatever's under that light, you know, and then they'd have maybe 4 or 6 lights, and I'd try to buy whatever else they had too, because it was so scarce back then to actually get fire indoor like that, you know. And, you know, we're selling that for $5,000-6,000 a pound back then, and or breaking it down and selling it for, you know, more, 500 ounce.
Indiana, 5,000-6,000 a pound sounds about fucking right for sure.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people say, yeah, I get this much for weed. I mean, he's talking about $5,000-6,000 a pound as a fucking whole unit.
Yeah.
That's one unit. Here you go. He gave me $5,000-6,000. Yeah. A lot of people nowadays try to embellish what they're getting per pound, but they'll tell you what they're getting per pound, you know, package in a jar or whatever it is. And that doesn't count. That doesn't count. And we're talking about whole units. So I don't know when corn, I'm not a farmer. You know, obviously you guys had to crop harvest before the combines came through.
Yeah.
You know, combines came through, and because the farmer, you know, they hire these companies, they come in with the combines and they start mowing the fields.
Yeah, that's just like you hear, harvest moon.
Okay.
So you just got to beat the farmer to the harvest moon.
Okay.
And harvest that weed, and you're good, you know. So, you know, you know, like I said, that those fields will be juiced with nutrients, man. So that stuff will be coming out, fed with nutrients. You know, and
so how did this work? Because you guys obviously in the field, you know, in a car, I'm sorry, a truck or something. You guys cut the whole plant, and then how did you guys get it, and where'd you put it? How'd you dry it?
We'd go take it to a garage.
Okay.
And go dry it in garages.
In the garage, okay.
Stink the neighborhood up.
Yes, you did. Oh my God, that's actually scary in itself. I'd rather grow weed inside, freaking, and build the thing sealed. And then risking driving with all that weed. But I guess, you know, you got to do what you got to do. Everybody does it.
Yeah, and you're in Indiana, you know, so it'd be places, some people had little country places that were out of the way where you'd be on a property where nobody'd be around, and, you know, find places like that to dry it in a house or a garage, and, you know, somewhere that's out in the middle of nowhere. And and do it like that.
How old were you? About what age roughly?
Like 17. I say 97 because that's when I built my first indoor grow. You know, before that, like I said, I'd go partner with some of my friends who had houses and this and that. And but 17, I got my first house that I moved in. My house, put plants in, built the grow, and that was so. That's what I was gonna say. I was the first generation, or maybe not the first generation, but one of the people that I knew that I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna start flowering.
Okay.
So we started flowering, and started, those were like my first harvest. And we had right about then I got rented a couple houses and was getting it going, and
You kind of did kind of like what I did. I was a general contractor. I was in construction, and what I did is I would build grows for people. At cost. I didn't pay myself. I would pay a guy or two that helped me. Because during the day I ran a construction company. I custom homes, and then nighttime I would go and build these places for people. And then the deal was, if I built it for you, I built it for cost, but I get the first rights refusal of every single gram that comes to that spot. And we built 10 lighters, 12 lighters, 24 lighters, where they would 200 amp panel. They would have to hit day and night. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
12 hours on, boom, when that was off, this one would fucking turn on.
Oh yeah.
Gut houses or garages and stuff like that, whatever it was. So I understand that model that you had. So then you were growing weed there, and then what happened? What at what point did you say, hey, I want to go to California, or did something happen there that
No, so
you had to run?
My dad always lived out here in
he
Santa
did?
Cruz.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why you went to Santa Cruz.
So
okay.
yeah, so I was back there. My mom lived in Santa Cruz. My dad went to prison right before I was born.
Shit,
So,
okay.
So my mom went back to Indiana. That's where my grandparents lived, and that's where my family was. My family was originally out in the Santa Cruz area because my grandfather was in the military, so they were stationed in like Salinas area, and so that's where that's how my family ended up in California. That's how my mom met my dad. My dad goes to prison right before I'm born, so my mom has to go back to Indiana where my grandparents are, and the rest of my family, and so I grew up there. And it was right about that time, though, I'm 18, 19, 20 years old. Or I guess you fast forward a couple years, 21, 22, my son is about to be born. Terp, we call him, little Terp. He's 23 now. And I was like, man, I want to move I want to raise my kids by the beach. My dad was telling me, he's like, dude, you got to get out here. He's like, it's time. He's like, and I was going to college, and I was hustling still and growing weed, but it was like, and weed was legal in California. My dad's like, dude, it's legal here.
Right, I got you.
He's like, come on. So
Did your dad go to jail in Indiana or in California?
in California.
You came in Indiana, California.
Yep.
Okay, I got you. Okay. Oh, because you guys lived in California? Oh, that's right. You guys were here first.
Yep.
And then he went to jail, and your mom had to go back to Indiana, the family, with you to grow up there. Okay, I got it. I got you. Okay.
So I was born in Indiana, but my mom went back there pregnant with me right before I was born. And so,
Right, okay, and then so your dad, I'm sure, talked to you back into say, hey, you know what, just come over here. It's legal here.
Yeah.
Probably less trouble. He didn't want you to.
Exactly. That's what he was like.
He didn't want you to go through what he went through.
Exactly.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, he's what he's saying. He's like, man, in Indiana, they'll throw you in jail. He's like, here, you probably just get a slap on the wrist. You could do it, come out here and get involved. And I was already growing weed.
Right.
He's like, you're growing weed. He's like, it's legal here. Come out here and get it going. So, so moved to Santa Cruz, and we got a place, little apartment, first year right on the beach, just to feel it out. But I already had, like I said, I had a few houses by that time. Right now, we're fast forward 5 years from when I first started in Indy, right? And I've got a few grow houses that I'm partnered with some friends that I grew up
Here or still in Indiana?
in Indiana.
Okay, yeah, because the hardest fucking thing for a drug dealer, grower, cultivator to do is not build a grow. The hardest thing for a cultivator to do is to shut down an operating grow.
Yep.
That's the hardest thing. So I'm assuming, and I'm jumped ahead, I'm assuming what he did is he wanted to come to California, and what he did is he probably gave your friends those houses,
Yep.
and then they were cutting you in.
Yeah.
They were cutting you in. Okay.
Yeah, but so
Okay.
back then, this is 5 years ago. My wife used to work for the airline. Back then, you would get these buddy passes.
Correct.
Right. So a buddy pass would be like $100. You fly round trip anywhere, and and it was this kind of the standby thing that works a little bit now still is some of that, but like, so that, that's what it was. So I had like 50 or 100 of those buddy passes built up. I buy them from all her friends. I'm buying them from everybody, for weed. So I had those built up. So I would fly back to Indy like every weekend or every other weekend, help my buddies. We're harvesting weed. We're growing weed. We're still doing shit. We're smacking cornfield still. We're doing, doing all the things. And I did that for a couple years to get it going, to make my transition. But about a year after I moved to California, like I said, we had that apartment by the beach, and then like in the next year, I was like, all right, I need to get a house, right? So rented a house. House had a nice big garage, and it had this upstairs in the garage, like an upstairs like loft that went to another room. So I built out, little start there, 6 lights, and this is back in the old Craigslist clone days.
Oh my God!
So remember, I come from a place of cutting thousands of clones, right?
Oh,
so
shit.
that's what I'm comfortable in, right?
Right.
And I moved out there. Not a lot of people were doing clones in California like that then, right? So I built the garage out straight moms for cutting clones and selling them on Craigslist.
Tons of money. I can see it already now.
Yeah.
Oh my God, tons of money. Yes, Craigslist. I remember when I came to California, it's roughly 2010, people would sell fucking clones on Craigslist.
It was the biggest thing, like,
Yes.
it was huge,
They weren't always what they say they were, and they weren't always the healthiest. Every once in a while, you'd find a guy, and then you keep that guy's number because you knew that the guy had some good shit. But yes, sometimes when something happened, you couldn't just go to a dispensary at early and then get clones. You know what I'm saying?
No, and dispensaries were selling back then, so I was selling clones to dispensaries and doing that, and I was going to the dispensaries and hunting out all the good genetics back then, and and doing that, and I brought that skunk out to California, flew on a plane with it, back then, stuffed it down my pants, jumped on the plane with a couple cuts, made it out there, had him going, and I always assumed like everybody from my neighborhood, all my friends were growing skunk weed, so I just assumed it's like, man, I can always get skunk. And that was back then. Other cuts are coming around, this, that, the purple, this, that. And, like I said, I didn't have that big of a grow. So at one point, and I'd given it to a couple of friends in California, but somewhere along the lines, I killed it or I didn't keep it. Assuming, again, like I said, I'd be able to find it again.
Yeah, doesn't happen.
Doesn't
happen.
And now here we are, and I'm dying to find that skunk again. But, yeah.
All right, guys, I got a problem. Come with me. So here's what happened. I ordered a bunch of lights because I'm having that Model I sale for $399. So Model I is going to go up for sale for $399. Effective immediately. I got this warehouse and their warehouse was delayed on being able to get it. I couldn't install the racks. So now I don't have any room. As you can see, this place is just packed and I need room. The first 1,500 lights that go out, $299. My logistics issue makes it your gain. $299. I need a lot of these lights out of here so I can shuffle with the forklift and put up these racks. So $299, first 1,500 lights. That should give me enough space to move some pallets around. Let's go. So then, what happened with the guys in Indiana? Because I'm sure that you started focusing on California, and then it was hard to freaking run kind of both. And then I'm assuming the guys in Indiana couldn't really keep it up because.
Well, no, they're still my good bros. They're some of my best friends that I grew up with all my life, and but you know how it is. Spots get busted.
Yep.
Going to find a new place. People have kids, their lives change,
Yep.
everything starts evolving, and a couple years later, it's like, all right, you guys, I'm good. I'm going to stay in Cali and do my thing, and you guys are doing it. And a bunch of those bros that I was partnered with, they're still growing today. They're doing this. Michigan's right above Indiana, so a bunch of them have gone up to Michigan.
Right. Plus, I'm sure at that time, I can probably grow safer. That's kind of what I did. I can grow safer in California. Almost with no worries if something happens,
Yeah.
Get a slap on the wrist.
Exactly.
And if I always wanted to, I can just fucking send it back to fucking Florida. That's why I said get to Florida. It was hot as fuck. you could not grow in Florida. I mean, there was just after grows. Like the DEA was super hot on the grows.
Yeah, yeah, they were crazy.
There was a time, like I said, I keep saying this. I've said this before. There was a time, middle 2000s, to 2015ish. Almost to 2010ish. That there were like if they busted a dude with kilos, they just asked him, "Who's got the grow houses? Who's got the grow house?" Because
Yeah.
civil forfeiture. They were able to. Most growers own the houses.
Own a house, yeah.
Cars, whatever. So civil forfeiture is how that's how the cops make money is by taking all your shit.
Yeah.
So they were hot on the grow houses. So I can see that. So I said, you know what? Fuck this. Plus we were. I was a hot tamale. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was hot as fuck. They were on my tip, but they really couldn't get me because I got a legit business. I built high-end homes for a fucking living.
Yeah.
I was a contractor licensed.
Yeah.
I built these places, but I didn't fucking frequent them. I didn't sit on them. And in the way home from work or that day, hey man, I got 20 pack for you. I got 30 pack for you. So no problem.
grab it
I
and move,
fucking
yeah.
they go to a freaking construction site that's got fucking 30 fucking cars. People bringing boxes in for AC, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So it blended, and then they got there, and then I have somebody come pick them up. And then or we go to lunch.
Yeah, just-
Whatever, and then
We
I
moved
come
a
home
different way back
Yeah,
then, It
with
was
a chunk of money.
very,
It was,
very,
and
very
then
low
I didn't have
key.
no traffic at home or whatever, nothing like that. It was, so it fucking worked. It worked, and those were the good old glory days.
Yeah.
That they'll never come back. And,
Yeah. No, rewind a little bit. So when I was my freshman year of high school,
Mhm.
I was already getting kicked out. I got kicked out of junior high school for smoking weed and
Okay.
having to join at school. And my mom's like, all right, you're wilding out, moving to Florida.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
I moved down to Fort Lauderdale.
Sick. Right
freshman
down the
year of high
street, baby.
school. Yeah, I went to
No.
Plantation High.
Get the fuck. I didn't even know this.
Yeah.
Dude, we're almost neighbors.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
so-
right by me.
Dude,
No
it was,
way.
And my mom, for some reason, thought moving me out of Indiana to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, was gonna be something to keep me out of trouble.
She didn't know what was
No,
going
so
on.
that immediately I'm selling weed. I'm connecting with, buying pounds from Haitians and the brickweed and I linked up with a guy in my condo park complex that had the Crippy back then.
Okay.
That was my first intro to Crippy.
Get the fuck out of
Yeah.
here. Interesting.
Yeah.
And I've had this discussion with everybody. A lot of people don't. What's Crippy? Crippy is a strain now. I think 808 and Sunshine Cannabis out of Florida. Chris, he's got the patent on that, or the trademark, should I say? Not a patent. I misspoke. The trademark on that name in Florida, and a couple other states. But 808 out of I think it's Jake out of Hawaii. He's got the Crippy. But the Crippy is synonymous to anything that's seedless.
Yep.
Because
fire indoor.
Fire indoor because we had the crypto back then, and then eventually kind of we sold a shit ton of that shit. And the Cubans, they'll say, hey, the creepy, yeah, you got the creepy. Everything they'll see is the creepy. So to whoever says, I had the creepy, yeah, you're right, you had the creepy because I was creepy to you because it was seedless and it was good weed, it was indoor, whatever.
Yep.
So that's funny that you were in Plantation. You were right down the street. I mean,
Yeah.
shit. I mean, I was in Pompano. Plantations right down the street. And then I went to Deerfield and then Delray and stuff like that. So cool. Can you tell me about so what happened? So what, ninth grade?
Yeah. So that only lasted like a year and a half before I got kicked out of school there and was selling weed and going crazy there. And then my mom was like, all right, we'll go back to Indiana because it's going to be worse for you here.
Okay.
So,
For sure.
yeah.
For sure. Well, I don't know. Fucking Indiana. I heard Indiana's pretty rough. Indiana. And
No,
Florida,
Indiana's wild.
It's-
Indiana is wild for sure. But, I was on just
Is
a
Indiana a blue state or red state?
red state.
Red state. So just like fucking Florida, Republican. They'll
Yeah.
throw you in
Oh,
jail
yeah.
and fucking throw
Yeah.
away the key.
And,
Florida was 25 plants or more. So 26 plants was 3-year minimum mandatory federal case.
Yep.
I don't know what Indiana's loss was.
I don't remember what it was back then, but you get caught with a girl, you were definitely going to sit in jail. And so anyway, go back to Indy, and I got some new experience. I was down in Florida. I was buying weed. I'm telling them about Crippy. We had already seen, like, even as a youngster, like I said, my OGs were growing weed, so I'd already seen that skunk weed and stuff even as a young kid, so I come back and I'm talking about that so back to work in Indy, right? So, and then, like I said, so fast forward, I started growing, and then we were at the point where I moved out to California. So I moved out to Cali, stopped, going out to Indiana every weekend or whatever, and built my own grow there, and had it set up to where I was like, all right, I'm gonna stay in Cali and just start rocking this here. I was going to school in Cali, in Santa Cruz, so going to college.
Yeah, college.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're out of
Now we're going to college.
Where'd you finish high school? Did you finish high school in Indiana?
I
You said
I
freshman
dropped
in
out
Florida?
when I was a junior. I got my GED.
Okay.
I started.
In Indiana.
Yeah, in Indiana still.
Okay.
I started going to college there, and that's where I was like, all right, let me, then my son was coming, so I was like, all right, let me figure out how
Fuck,
to get
so
it.
you got a girl pregnant early.
Yeah, no, and we already had my older son, Jason.
Oh
so.
shit, you started really
Yeah.
extra early.
Yeah,
all right.
So then it was like, that's what I said. It's like, I want to raise my family by the beach.
Okay.
My dad's like, come out. He's like, what are you doing? Let's go. So boom, we go out to Cali. So now we're set up. We got a house. We got that going. And same thing. It's starting to be like, all right, I need to grow bigger. I need bigger. I need more. And we ended
Typical
up.
guy, more is better.
Yeah.
Bigger.
We ended up eventually. We got we had a big house in Soquel, which is in Santa Cruz, 10-bedroom house, big property that had old grown over tennis court and big wraparound deck, and
Big fucking thing.
yeah, so we're flowering in 5, 6 of the rooms. We greenhoused off the deck. We're rocking the deck. We cleared out the tennis court. We got big plants banging the tennis court.
Oh shit.
And this is early. This is 2005, right? This is early days.
Fuck the tennis court.
My-
Hey, that thing's freaking gated. We got private fences. No deer coming,
no
probably.
deer were getting
No
that.
deer coming. Hell yeah.
So we, and this is, like I said, 2005. My friends had owned one of the glass shops there, early BHO days, right? So I'm
Heydays,
cases
baby.
of cans of butane. We're pulling out the whole front of the house was sliding glass doors, right? We're pulling off the sliding glass doors, laying those out, blasting the butane onto the big glass, right? Big giant slabs. Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so that was going on there. That was the beginning days. So we got busted in 2005.
Fuck, really?
Yeah. So cops
Whoa.
come, they busted. Dude, I got thousands of cans of butane. We got all those grow rooms. We're medical back then,
okay,
right?
okay.
So medical. I had a bunch of scripts on the wall, and
But the butane.
yeah, but the butane back then there was and back then they treated that like manufacturing a controlled substance, right? So
I
there
got
was,
raided for that shit.
yeah, so there was that hanging over my head at first, right? They're threatening that, and of course, remember, I'm collecting clones. I had 2,000-3,000 clones, which is definitely a federal case, even in California at that point, right? So they're like, the lawyer's like, yeah, this could go, we'll see how it goes. Right then, there had been a precedent that when you got caught back then with weed or whatever, it was possession of marijuana or hashish, right? So hash was a form of considered cannabis right then. So there was some kind of precedent right then that they had already said something where cannabis is not making crack or meth
Right.
or whatever, right? So
Now when they fucking raided me, when
yeah,
they
so-
raided me, they fucking threw the book at me. You want my
Santa Cruz was really, was a really, cannabis friendly
It is.
city and
It
county.
is, yes.
Even back then, right? Because that was the home of Wham, right? They had beat the feds, in
Yes.
in 90.
That was probably
98,
that's a
99.
blue county, blue city.
Yeah.
Not where I got raided in Oroville. Fucking they threw the book
Yeah,
at me. You know what? My
you're in the
charge
country.
read as follows: manufacturing, and it was, or like I said, we were fucking I had a lab, mobile lab, badass equipment from Bogart. The first
Yeah.
16
Shout out
cubic.
Bogart.
Bogart, baby, back in the day, yeah. And I bought the first 16 cubic feet AI. What's the fuck? Across International oven. And my charge fucking, they threw the book at me at first. My charge read as follows: manufacturing anything other than PCP. I'm thinking, what in the fuck, dude? I'm fucking making fucking, honey oil, beauty honey.
Yeah.
Why does it charge? I'm telling my attorney, like, dude, this is fucked up. I mean, I'm 40 something years old. I'm not gonna go get another job, but I got a couple young guys that work with me that this is gonna read horrible through their life. I got a 22-year-old that's fucking a trimmer, and he's gonna read horrible. So they're gonna, if somebody reads this kid's going for a job and they're reading manufacturing anything other than PCP, they're gonna think in their mind, this motherfucker's manufacturing meth.
Yeah.
Or something, which is a horrible fucking charge. But we went through it. We went through that gauntlet. We all shut the fuck up. Floridians, and we went through it. Fucking, it was like 4.5 year dance with the fucking cops. So keep telling me. So you didn't get in the fucking kind of trouble that these fuckers tried to put me in.
Yeah, no. So they dropped that immediately. They didn't move forward with that. There was a couple felony cultivation charges, and I had my
And actually,
wife there.
felony
and my kids
cultivation.
there.
I thought it was a
back
misdemeanor.
then-
Misdemeanor is after 215 when Prop 64.
Yeah.
That's when cultivation became.
That's
a
Prop
fucking
64 is when it became a misdemeanor.
which they hate that now.
Yeah, no, but back then it was still a felony, right?
Okay.
So, and that was their whole thing, still, right? They still want to terrorize you and try to steal some money from you or whatever they could. So, but anyway, I ended up pleading that down to a misdemeanor, and doing community service, which was picking up trash at the beach.
Damn.
Which is, Santa Cruz, you're proud of where you live, right?
Yeah.
I loved it. I was like, man, I'm at the beach hanging out all day, cleaning up my neighborhood, like, it was great. So, my kids would come hang out while I'm out there cleaning up, and they're all on the beach. We lived right.
Hey, you guys want to go to the beach? Come on, I'm gonna go work. You just
I'll be
lay
at
out,
work and
and I'm gonna do my community hours. That's pretty funny.
come
That's
eat
cool.
lunch with them, hang out on the beach on the sand, then go back to work for a couple more hours.
So you lost that house.
Yeah,
Obviously,
lost that house.
Big fucking house. So then you had to regroup and what happened then?
So then I had to get my first job.
Oh shit.
So I already had a job a little bit when I moved to California. My dad's friend gave me a job doing construction, right? But they called me Friday because I was going to school in the week. And I'd only work Fridays because I was payday. So I just come in.
It's Friday. Works 1 day a week, but then he shows up the next week so he can get paid to work. He works that day to get paid.
Yes.
Friday. Oh my God. All right.
And that was how it started. Then I ended up doing that, eventually kind of full time and doing that, and met some of the best friends that I have in California still to this day too. Good group of guys, man. And
It's great to know construction workers. They can build shit. They can help.
And that's who helped me end up building my grow.
Got great work ethic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's, and then plus they know other construction workers. They want weed.
Yep.
They sell weed.
Yeah, sell weed.
Great,
It's
it's
always
big, like a loop.
a good circle.
Yeah,
A
good
good
circle.
circle of peeps, man. So, so yeah, I ended up doing that for a little bit, but then that happened. I was like, all right, I gotta get a real job. My sister and brother-in-law. My brother-in-law owned a logistics company, so a third-party logistics company doing sales, selling freight. Yeah, so
I see where this is
so
going.
I went and did that. And so we'll talk about where that evolved into.
I see where that's going. It's funny how shit sometimes just fucking lays on your lap. All these stories because obviously I've known Nick for quite a while now, but all these little intricate stories. You only find them when you put them on a podcast and then you discuss it. And it's kind of like, holy shit, okay, that's how that happened.
Yeah, that's how he ended up doing all that shit. Okay.
Yeah.
The pieces
It's like
come
we were
together.
being trained to do what we do now. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
everybody's got their own little different story or figure out, how to get to where we're at. Per se,
Yeah, and you know what I think about it, where it's like, I did that for over 10 years, right? Every day, literally coordinating shipments across the country
Oh,
on
so you
pallets.
kept that job for fucking 10 years.
Yeah.
Sick. Okay.
And so, but you learn a lot, right? And you figure out how to do things, and we're in a world now where weed moves across the
Way
the
different,
country or the
yeah.
world, a lot more than it did back then, right?
100%. Yes.
But having that knowledge and being able to do that back then, I felt like put me a little bit,
100%.
curb, right? And not
Absolutely.
being scared. I was always not scared to do a lot of shit, but once I started getting comfortable with that, we started to do a bunch of stuff. And this is, we had mentioned something earlier about, people. We go to a lot of these different states, right? Me and you work in different places, and you work with people, and a lot of people are stuck in their box and their bubble of not wanting outsiders to come in, or they're local this, or people from California, wherever it may be, or we always, if you were really making money and making moves back then, you were working with people from other places, right?
And the good thing for you is, you had friends in Indiana. You actually had gone down to Florida. So you have friends in Indiana that fucking wanted weed. You have friends in Florida that wanted weed.
Yeah.
Both red states. You're here in California, a blue state. You're in Santa Cruz. It was one of the, back then, it was one of the meccas of cannabis back then.
Oh, yeah.
It was like I said, weed-friendly place. And you're working in the logistics. Fucking, hey, what's not to love?
So a lot of pieces came together from that, and then that's what I say. Even working now in New York and stuff, that's why I've been able to go out there and really build and make real connections, because we were talking earlier, and this is another big part of this whole evolution was those weed shows back then, the Chalice Cup, High Times. You know, these were some of the people were coming from everywhere.
Yes,
Right.
they were flying in just to, find connections, experience it. See what the latest and the greatest was. See if they can make a connection. A lot of people flew into these shows. A lot of people they went there for the show, but the hustlers went there to make a connection.
Make connections.
To make a connection.
Yeah.
Who am I going to meet?
And,
Exactly.
And that's what it was, right? It was people hearing about California. It's legal there, and even though it was medical, and we were, it was a fine line we were walking, but it was legal trapping, like you said. It was.
Chalice was legal trapping.
It was, and some of those big shows, and those were career-defining moments, right? Where you connect with good people, right? Meet some people. All right, we're gonna do some stuff. We're sending it over there. We're making moves, and those relationships after you keep working together, and then long-term relationships for 5 years, 10 years of connecting with people, and once you've met some good people, met some of the right people, made some good money together. That forms a real relationship. And then, fast forward to New York going legal, and I'm like, okay, I've already done this in California. Let me come and help my friends out. Let me come and help them, get over that line and show them what the future's like here. And
before we get into the New York story,
that's a
before we
little
get into the New York story, I want to go back a little because I was reading my notes. There's a time here that it says that you went and you took over a commercial grow.
Yep.
Right, commercial grow. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just going off what I've read, because this kind of helps me tell the story. I say when I get the guest on here, and I want to know everything about them. Because I've known these guys for some time, but I don't know all the intricate parts. So we do a questionnaire to try to find out things that we can kind of lead the story, so you the guest can understand what these guys what went through, how they got here. Every little nook and cranny that of the story. So you went you took over a commercial spot, I believe, and then I believe I read that the Oregon kid had been working it before, and he went to Oregon or something.
No.
Oh no. Okay.
No, Oregon kid. So the original Golden State Banana is the original Oregon Kid Banana OG cut, right?
Which I believe you guys called it Chiquita Banana first.
So we were calling it Chiquita Banana back then, and
did you guys get a cease and desist?
Yeah,
or you
we
guys
got the
did
cease and
actually get the
desist.
cease and desist?
Yeah, and it was right at that time too, right, where Oregon and Washington went legal first. And I don't know if you remember the Star Wars, the Jedi, and the there was some lawsuits up there from that. And the Gorilla Glue shit happened.
Gorilla Glue, with Cat,
and,
That's why it's called GG4 now. It's not Gorilla Glue anymore. Even though we'll forever know that thing as Gorilla Glue, they're the owners of the strain or they have the trademark on that can't call it Gorilla Glue for patent infringement reasons, trademark reasons. So it's GG4. Same thing with Skittles. The guys from Skittles can't call it Skittles, or they call it Z.
Yeah, Runts, right? Everybody, but this is before that hadn't happened with those guys yet.
Correct.
But Doug had gotten sued. Dougie from Hitman Chalice had gotten sued by Starbucks for making the Dabbuccino rig, and there was just all these things happening where I was like, and they sent the cease and desist where I'm like, all right, let's figure out how to not get sued right now, right? And so we had the banana and Golden State. We were California proud, and so that was the birth of Golden State Banana, right? That was around 2014, 15.
So how did Oregon Kid mix with that story with the league with the commercial or
he didn't have anything to do with that.
Oh, he didn't have anything with that. Okay. So how did you get the strain?
I got the banana cut from, and this is like we talk about people, not wanting to connect with outsiders or whatever. I happen to be a bunch of my friends were a circle of New York cats, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so we're all kind of growing weed together and sharing some strains. We were growing Sour OG back then, and a couple other fire cuts, Headband, and they had the banana, and my boy is moving to Colorado because Colorado is blowing up, right? And he had a few houses back there. Remember, we're building these garages.
Washington came legal. Then it was Oregon or Colorado. Washington was first, right? Or was it Washington first?
Washington was first.
Or was it Colorado first? No, it was Washington first, then Colorado, then Oregon.
So, yep.
Okay.
So Colorado's just blowing up, right? And everybody's like, we're going out there, we're building big grows. So my bro's like, I'm going. right? He had a few houses, right? Because we're building out those garages back then, right? And we would build the garages real nice, like you said, 12, 16, 24 lights, depending, 2, 3 car. And we'd build it all sealed, room inside of a room. Build the whole floor was basically a table. We didn't use tables back then. The whole floor would be at a pitch into a gutter in the center of the room. Everything would be on a drip, all the pots, right? We'd water it. The water would flow down the middle, out of the gutter, and pump out outside to
Feed to waste.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
that's how we did a lot of stuff. Sometimes we recycled, but a lot of times, at first we did feed to waste, then we went to where we catch it, recycle it.
Yep. So real, but nice grows back then. You know, we're spending 30, 40, 50 grand to build out those rooms back then. You know. Anyway, so he had a couple of houses, and he's like, "I'm leaving. I'm moving. You want to buy he didn't own them. He rented them, but he's like, "You want to take over these for me? They're all built out. You can take over the." You know, and back then we had, you know, these were people. The landlords knew what was going on.
Yeah, it was
paying
cool.
good money. They were in good locations, so it's like, all right, boom, took it over. And he's leaving. He's like, and I'm gonna leave you with a couple rounds and cuts to fill everything up, you know.
Fucking
And
A,
he had the banana cut.
turnkey.
And that started it all. It was like, you know, and I hadn't really grown the banana before that, and I was stoked back then on this sour OG. We were growing big, chunky, 2 pounds, you know, plus, and stanky, and we were still in that headband and sour and OG era. And
Did that grow have standard HPS or did it have double ended?
no, this is early HPS day with the big umbrella hoods.
Okay, fuck. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
The umbrellas.
Yeah.
You know what they called it, because I started growing that too. It was the bulb coming down, the
Yep,
umbrella upside
sticking
down,
straight down,
What the
yeah.
hell is that freaking name of that? Oh my God, it's so aggravating that remembering the name. Okay, but
Yeah, and
I knew
those were, you like, right? We're building with a mini
single-ended,
a mini
standard.
split,
Yep.
yeah, in the room, and real
Parabolic.
climate control. Those were
parabolic.
yep.
Parabolic,
And,
standard HPS parabolic lights. Okay.
Yeah, it was, you know, those were crazy days. But yeah, so I bought those from him, got the cut, you know, running that, and I remember being hesitant at first because we were so stoked on this stuff, and then we put that banana, ran one of those banana rooms. A month later, big chunk already, growing fire, frosty as fuck, smelling amazing. I called my bro, who was my partner then. We were growing everything with. I said, man, cut nothing but banana. Right, we're running only banana from now on. Right?
The banana deal.
Yeah, you know, and that was where we went crazy. And a few of my friends had it, right? And in Santa Cruz, there was 13 dispensaries, and Santa Cruz was a hub. But Santa Cruz dispensaries sold a lot of weed back then, right?
Yes.
You know, so it'd be like a fight. You'd go to a couple dispensaries, they'd be like, "Don't sell that to anybody else. I want to buy it all." You know, and so it would be like I wouldn't even have to leave Santa Cruz back then. And then a couple, it came to a time where, like I said, a couple of the bros had it, and they had their own grows and they're growing it, and one of my friends who owned one of the dispensaries, he had it too, Santa Cruz. Shout out Grant, because he was the first person I ever met making live resin back then, and I went to I'm sitting in his office one day, and I got my batch of banana, and he's like, "Man, I just harvested some banana, bro. Jesse just came in with some banana." He's like, "You should maybe just like go sell that shit out of Santa Cruz, right? San Jose's right there, Oakland, all these places." He's like, "Why even stress it?" And I was like, "You know what, you're right." And we were going over to the dispensaries over there back then, and buying cuts still or doing this and that. I was selling to, I'd gone to a few before and sold some stuff, but it wasn't like a regular thing because, like I said, everything was getting sold. So once I did that and I went over there, and I went to one of the dispensaries, and for some reason it's blanking for me. It's going to come to me in a minute. Derek from
Festival?
no, he passed away a few years ago, man. But in San Jose, it was one of the popping spots. Mm-hmm. And I went in there, and they had an early little testing machine in there. And they ran the test on the banana, and it came back like 34%. Right?
Oh, score.
And they're like, "Dude, we'll give you fucking top dollar for all this shit every time," right? So I was like, all right, I'm not even selling weed in Santa Cruz anymore. I'm going over here.
Yeah.
Shit. And so that started.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, that started that.
The door starts to close down, and you kind of doubt yourself. You go somewhere else, like, hell yeah, I'm fucking back in.
And they're giving me even more, right?
Yeah.
And then LA catches the wave, so I had some bros in LA who had shops, and come down, bring us that shit down here. So you know, that started the spread out of it, you know. But yeah, again, shout out to Oregon Kid, because we're also talking about a time back then where people didn't really share cuts like that.
No.
You know, and he was one of those people who put the cut out, shared the cut, let people get it. And I've always given him big respect, big love, man. And he's always, you know, he's always loved what we've done, the banana, and always, you know, bigs me up and shows love.
I never met that guy.
Yeah,
I mean,
cool cat.
I used to follow him on Instagram. I think he's followed me a couple times. It'd be nice to meet the guy. I mean, like, you know, he's got good history.
Oh yeah, he's
good
got
history.
a story to tell.
He's got a
for
story.
sure.
I'd love to be able to tell his story. Hey, Oregon Kid, if you're listening to this, hit me up in the DM. Let's get you on here, and I want to hear your story.
Let's tell some of that OG story, man, from all that stuff he did. But again, shout him out for being one of the people sharing those cuts back then and getting that stuff out to the world. And I just tell people I lucked out that banana just became this staple, right? Not only in flower and it being a high tester in those early days when, and as you know, now we're in a world where that box has to check.
Oh my
right?
God, it has to check for the fucking stupid rec market.
Yeah, and as much as
sometimes I think that I personally think when I smoke, I don't smoke to get high. I smoke for taste, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that the higher teens, low 20s, you know, or 20 to 25, you know, it's got more flavor.
Oh yeah.
More
No,
flavor.
I tell people
Personally.
that's not a box to check for a consumer. That's something we're looking for as producers, maybe for harvesting for hash or for concentrate back to MPHO, you'd get a higher yield, right?
Correct.
And that's part of the story too is you know, back then we didn't know what that meant, right?
No.
And I just happened to be in Santa Cruz. My good friends happened to open SC Labs.
Okay.
So it wasn't anything cool. There wasn't anything you'd walk into a dispensary back then and be like, yeah, I got this high testing weed. They weren't putting anything about a test on anything. It was still they were doing deli style in the big jars and just selling.
Yeah.
If it smelled fire and looked fire, that's what they were going on, right? So, and I was just supporting my bros. Yeah, test my weed, you know, and let's see what it is. And a lot of the times back then it would be, like you said, 18, 20, 22%. That was pretty standard, you know.
I'm going to go back a little bit. When he said deli style, there's a lot of you guys, maybe some of you guys, that don't understand what deli style means. Deli style means back in the day. Now, all weed nowadays comes prepackaged. The state's got a little control when everything's packaged because they know that, you know, everything's, you know, it's got to move like this in a box. But deli style is pretty much when like if you go to a delicatessen and you order, you know, turkey, you know, and they cut the turkey and they slice it. Well, the same thing is they have these jars, you know, in front, and then you say, hey, I want a gram of that, a gram of that. They either get chopsticks or tongues, and they grab, you know, they open up the jar for you. They let you look at it, smell it, you know, and then they would grab it, and there were some tongues, and they would weigh it, and then put it in a bag and hand it to you. You know, there was none of this kind of branding thing, you know. That
in the medical days, yeah, they'd put it in the little medical jar, or the little pill bottle jar, or whatever for you, and do it that way, or. You know, and I remember, you know, it started getting to a point because we were proud of what we were growing back then. We were growing fire, and I remember the first couple times going into some of my friends' dispensaries and having it packaged up already for them in a jar, and but this got the brand on it, sell it like this, and they're like, we don't sell it like that. They're like, what do you mean? They're like, we don't want it like that. We want it in the big jar. We want to be able to show the customer on the scale that it's 3.5, and we might give them 3.6 or 3.7, and they feel stoked, and that's what our customers like. And it's like, no, but they're asking for this, you know, the banana from this guy or these guys, like, you know. So it was like,
shit, you were one of the fucking first guys to.
Oh yeah.
There wasn't too many of them, you know. Back in the day, if I remember, guys, there started a brand back in the day was like Alien Labs was one of them. Space Monkey.
Yep.
Space Monkey
Good
was
bros.
the first can guy was Space Monkey.
Yeah. I don't know if they did it before us.
No, you did the can before.
Oh,
you
yeah,
did the can
man.
too?
Fuck
you
yeah.
did the can too?
Of course.
Didn't even fucking know that. Shane, I never knew anybody that did the cans before Shane from Space Monkey.
Yeah, man. Shout out Shane. Good brother, man. Love
and
those
I'm going to
guys.
have Shane, where you at? Where's your questionnaires in your fucking inbox? What's up? Fill it out, kid. Let's go.
Man.
Tell
We
your
need to
story.
see you.
He goes, I got Nick over here saying he's got the cans before you. What's up? We're going to have a little argument over here. Who's got it first?
There's
what came
definitely-
first? Let's go.
I was definitely one of the first, right? Like in those early days, Gas House, Lemon Tree, you know, those were some of the first people doing them, and and we jumped,
Never
right in.
knew that you had.
Oh yeah, we did that early, and they were packaging here in Sacramento. We were bringing it up to Sacramento. They were packaging it here.
I know, because this is where Shane started. He had the canning machine, and the thing, and he did it for Matt Midsotics. He fucking packaged a lot of weed for Matt too. A lot of weed for Matt.
Yeah, Matt was around.
And Matt, you got your questionnaire too, kid. What's up? Let's go.
History with all these guys, man, and I love all these guys. That's why I love everybody from the industry, all the hustlers, and that's what we talk about, man. About back then, 2000, 17, 18, right as we transitioned into recreational. We were all in a place in Oakland, the Canaplex, man, and it was me and Matt Midsotics and Gas House and Runts and Big Al from Gushers, and Frenchie Cannoli was in there making hash.
Shit. Shout out to Frenchie Cannoli.
Yeah,
Rest
man.
in peace. Off topic, Matt from Midsotics, he showed up at my house, to see my son with my son Tyler. They were in the casita, and I went out there, and then first time I think I met him face to face. He was there with Case God, and Case God's wife. And then I remember that he was the dude from that show Big Country.
Yeah.
Okay, Big Country.
Weed Country.
Weed Country.
Yeah.
Yeah, Weed Country. And then I
First
guess
weed show ever.
Yeah, first weed show ever. And then now that I've known him a little bit, I don't know his story either. I want to break down his whole story from the beginning to the end. He did a lot of Hollywood stuff here and there, whatever. But I got to ask him the fucking question, and I'm not gonna say the answer because Matt, you're gonna tell that story. But I got him to ask the question that everybody wanted to ask when they were watching Weed Country. When he went up to Humboldt and he spent the night in that teepee, okay? And the dudes got robbed. What happened, Matt? I go, what happened? Did you have something to do with it? What's going on? And I'm not going to tell you what the answer is because I'm going to get Matt on here and I'm going to question him and tell you that story. Anybody that watched that show, Weed Country, always wondered if they really got robbed, if it was part of the
hype,
part of the production to make it look like he got robbed and stuff. So that was pretty cool.
A lot of crazy shit was happening back then, so I wouldn't doubt it. I think I asked him not too long ago too. I remember the one hillbilly dude, or the dude who went on there and met what was the guy? Mike Booton.
Mike Booton, yeah, that's the guy. That's the dude. That's the dude that
I remember asking,
went
what
there.
happened to that guy?
He went to there, and then I guess everybody hated that guy because I guess he was really a true. This is kind of really what happened. Mike Booton let him go up there. Humboldt's very private back then. To let this dude up there with a Porsche or whatever come in, and then the cameras from fucking National Geographic. National Geographic is following this dude, and then they also got National Geographic with the cops. And then they're telling them this and that and the other. So they were pissed at him. They were pissed at Mike Booton.
I remember watching that show back then and thinking, there's no way.
But you know what? That show was a fucking hell of a lot better than the Harborside fucking show.
Yep.
The Harborside show, oh, God, that was such a letdown. That was just like, it was lame. It was slow. At least this one was kind of cool.
That was
cool, kind of cool.
It was intense. It was,
it had like a plot, like a twist, and it was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Oh my God, this guy, like, it made you really think: is this planned? Is this scripted? But I guess it wasn't. But like I said,
he was touching on some of the things that we were really doing back then, of connecting with people, and people were growing weed, and there was this magic thing that would happen that they never talked about, is the dispensaries had kind of an okay, right? And
yes, kind of.
But still never, how'd the weed end up on the shelf? There was never any way for us as growers to really be protected, even though you would connect with a dispensary and they would give you some of their scripts, or they would say you were growing for them. Man, if the cops ever came to your grow, bro, they're terrorizing you.
Oh, for sure.
They're
didn't
cutting
give a
everything.
fuck
They're
about
taking
no
you to
cars.
jail, no matter. Yeah,
no matter. They didn't give a fuck about no cars. You can take your cars and shove them up your ass.
Yeah, and
and
that's the thing. It's like you would show them the paperwork and be like, yeah, for a dispensary, whatever. But back then it was shut the fuck up still, right? So it's like, that's all you're telling the cops. It's like, you might as well just take me to jail because there's still nothing to talk about, right?
100%.
100%. There's nothing that you could tell that cop in that moment that's going to save your ass or stop what they feel like they're doing. And
I respect what you're doing, but I invoke the right to an attorney.
Yeah, so it's like, here's the paperwork. I'm done talking. I'll call the lawyer when I get out, and we'll let the judge decide.
So you were running this, I guess, called a commercial operation, because now you weren't growing inside of a house. You were growing inside of a building.
Yep.
Okay, a building. Okay.
So back. All right. So you had said the Oregon Kid thing. So Oregon Kid, we got the cut from. I got the cut from my friend, and we, there was a lot of, I was getting just involved, right? And back then, like I just said, right, that was your protection, was having a dispensary. So back then I'm like, I need to figure out how to get a dispensary. I'm growing a lot of weed. I got 4 or 5 grow houses. I'm buying weed from my friends or whatever. Like, all right, I need to get a dispensary and figure out how to get this, this medical protection, right? So I could, say I'm supplying for all these patients.
That was everybody's dream.
Yeah, and that was what it started. It was
everybody's dream that wasn't in California. I'm gonna go to California. That was my dream. I said I'm gonna go to California, and I'm gonna fucking grow weed, and I'm gonna get a dispensary, and I'm gonna fucking kill the game. That didn't really happen. I got smacked down.
Yeah,
like a reality check.
That takes you on your path,
Yes, reality check.
And so I started showing up to council meetings, and because you'd see like I said, I'm friends with a lot of the guys who had dispensaries. It's like, well, how'd they get a dispensary? They just went and
Smart.
So I started getting involved, right, and start learning a little, playing politics and figuring that stuff out. And at that point now, I've been working this job. I'm successful. I'm making good money. I'm a tax-paying citizen. I'm confident because I'm making.
So now you're juggling it.
Yeah.
Okay, a little bit of logistics still in the fucking books.
Yeah, logistics, full-time, successful.
Taxpayer citizen.
Yeah.
And then at nighttime you're doing the freaking grow. All right.
Leaving work, going straight to the grow, and doing that, for a couple hours, and going to another grow here, and just scheduling, and so I remember, Vegas had gone wreck a little bit before we did, right? Mm-hmm. Before California did. And I remember going out to one of the early MJ Biz and going to visit one of these, going on a tour of one of these grows that's getting built.
Okay.
And I was like, oh shit, this is what we're doing?
Big fuckers.
Yeah, I was like, oh wow, this is 600, 700 lights, big warehouse. I was like, okay. I went right home and fucking rented a 10,000 square foot warehouse.
Damn. All right.
And that's what it was. And luckily we, in Watsonville, I had a friend that we knew, family friend, and he managed like all the commercial property in Watsonville. He was like, that's just happened to be his relationship we had, and so yeah, I was like.
So how did you go from Santa Cruz all the way to Watsonville?
Watsonville is south side of Santa Cruz.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's in Santa Cruz County.
Okay, for some reason I thought Watsonville was north, but like Ukiah and shit.
No. Watsonville is like in Santa Cruz County. It's a small municipality on the south end of the county. So and that's where I worked doing the logistics stuff, right? So boom, grabbed up this 10,000 square foot warehouse, and we started building. Built out, a couple hundred lights, and that was it. And at that time, like now we're cooking, right? So
I think you sent me some videos. I think you sent me some videos. I think you and the wife were working.
Yeah.
The videos.
Yeah.
Is that the spot?
That was another spot right in Watsonville-ish area. It was about 5-10 minutes away from that.
Because it looked like a big, decent commercial
so we
grow.
built about 150 lights in there. 2 32 light rooms on the bottom, another 32 light room on the top, and then like a 20 light veg.
Okay.
Right, and then we had a clone room in there. So that was in another family friend's property. That was on an old apple orchard.
Okay.
So it was an old apple, which crazy story I'm going to tell you about. So it was an old apple producing facility, and so we built that out in there. And that video is planning the first room. So me and my wife, going in.
Family
boom,
business.
Boom, planting all the plants on our own. We did everything. This is still a time when you didn't trust a lot of people. So we're doing a lot of the stuff on our own back then.
As much
still,
as you
and
can.
doing everything, and so, planted those first couple rounds. Now we're in an apple production facility. They still store all the apples in the cold storage on the other side of the hallway outside of this, right? You walked in there.
I see where this is going.
Hold on. When you
I see where this is going. The apples smell like weed.
No. The apples smell. I'm talking about you walk in there. It smelled so amazing. like fruit juice, like you walk in there, it's like, oh my God, this smells amazing. What I didn't know is apples produce ethylene gas.
Yes, and they make it ripen.
You know what that makes plants think that it's time to do?
Yes, time to fucking
die.
Ripen. Oh, ripen.
Yeah.
Ripen, yes, ripen, yes. Ripen. Absolute fucking ethylene gas. There is actually stuff that, to slow down the ethylene gas, from happening, because it turns everything like bananas.
Yeah.
Bananas.
Yes.
They're picked green.
Yep.
They put in this
Put
stuff.
an apple in there, they say, or put the ethylene gas.
Ethylene gas, and it turns them yellow as soon as they're ready to go into the market. You know, they pick them early, hard green, so they can stack a bunch of them on top of each other. One squish the bottom one.
Yep.
As soon as they get to the grocery store, right before they send them to the grocery store, they pump them with ethylene gas, so they turn yellow, and then you, the consumer, will buy it. So, oh my God, interesting.
Yeah, so,
holy shit.
So walk into this. We plant all those plants. A week later, I'm like, because we're used to our everything just boom, right? The plants grow fast.
Oh my God.
Walk in there, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with the plants? I'm like,
I didn't see this one coming. I didn't see this one coming.
And back
who the
then,
fuck figured it out?
bro, dude.
This is a good story, dude. This is a good story.
No,
because-
this is a good-
because you know what? This is what happens. Like, dude, everything's going good. You built this fucking place. It's badass. You're gonna kill it.
Yeah,
and then you come in here, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and it's like, all right, pull them all out, replant them, right?
And it happened again.
It happens again.
I knew it was happening.
Yo, and I'm like,
Oh my God.
I'm like, like you said, like, what the fuck is going on? I'm calling all my
All
friends.
this money
who
that
know
he
anything
spent,
about it.
electric that he's paying every
Yeah,
month.
we're a couple $100,000 into a new grow, bro. This is a brand new
Oh,
built, state of the
God.
art. You know, now this is Gavita's, right? You saw that, you know.
Everybody's fighting with everybody because everybody thinks he's something.
Yeah, no, and it's like, what? And the guy who manages the property, he goes, you know what? He goes, when I go in to grab a pallet or something out of the apples, he goes, I have to hurry in there and I have to leave the door open because that gas will suck the oxygen out of your lungs and kill you. He goes, and I've read that it does something to plants. And I'm like, oh, really? And the rooms are built and sealed, right? But it's still like the door to get out there to right where the cold storage is just a sliding big giant 30-foot door that's like,
It's not 100% sealed.
yeah, it's not sealed, right? So it was like, how the fuck are we gonna seal this? You know, how are we gonna do this? But that's what we had to do. We had to go crazy, seal it, positive pressure. Now that's how we got into really, you know, you hear positive pressures in greenhouses, and now we do it a lot in the grows. But that was a real learning lesson of like,
Wow.
All right, this shit has to be sealed. There cannot be any other air in this room coming in here or getting in here. And yeah, so that was a hard lesson, an expensive lesson to learn.
Did you fix it?
Of course we did. Of course we
Oh
did.
my God,
Yeah,
dude.
no, we fixed it, and that place pumped. That place killed it. That was the apple orchard, Freedom Road in Watsonville.
Oh my God,
And,
that's an expensive lesson.
Yeah.
And that you know what? Some people might not figure that out.
no, we definitely wouldn't have figured out if he wouldn't have said that to us.
You know,
It was going to take us a lot more.
Here's somewhat of a
replanting.
similar story. What's up, guys? It's Mango here, and we're in the center of the Mango Tech showroom. When you say Troll Master, you think controllers. When you say Thinkro LED, you think lighting. I'm here to tell you that Troll Master and Thinkro are a whole cultivation system. Today, we're going to touch on ICL 300s and the Aero fans. There is no better combination in the market. ICL 300s are an inner canopy light that you set inside the canopy, and no, they're not 300 watts like some people may think. They're still 120 watts, but the 300 comes because they shine in 300 degrees. The ICL 150, that's up and coming here shortly, shines at 150 degrees because of its reverse V or A-frame style fixture. The 120 that's coming out is just like all the other regular ICLs or under canopy lights in the market. The ICL 300 and the ICL 150 are 4-spectrum tunable channel lights. That means you can play with each spectrum up and down to figure out what your strain likes best. All right, behind me, you see a single tier and a double tier. On the single tier, we have the ICL 300s on some PVC stands and some Thinkro LED stands that bring the inner canopy light into the canopy, so the whole canopy gets lit up adaxially and abaxially, not just like an under canopy light abaxially. All right, let's focus on the ICL 300 and the ICL 150. These are the Formula One, the Bugatti, the Ferrari of all inner canopy lights. Nothing comes even close to what these pair can do. Why? Because they're 4-channel spectrum tunable lights. You can tune your whites, your deep reds, your far reds, and your UV to a recipe that suits your plants. You guys remember at the beginning when I said that TrolMaster and Thinker LED are a cultivation system, not just a lighting and controller company. And this is exactly what I was talking about. The ICLs are now set on a unistrut rail system that you'll never have to waste any time putting and taking off any stands. The rail will also double as a mount for your new TrolMaster Aero fans to deliver freshly climate-controlled CO2 enriched air into your canopy. Nothing else comes close. Check it out. If you're interested in this system, hit the link below, www.mangotech.store. We got you. From A to Z, one-stop shop. Let's go. That happened to a friend of mine in Temecula, a lifelong friend, Angelo. Shout out, Sea Green Lounge. You know, accomplished grower with me since fucking forever. And when I was going through my case, I was going through my case. I couldn't have a grow. I was doing consulting around the country and stuff like that. And he had like a 12 or 16 lighter in a garage, and the plants were just. They would be vegging, everything would be vegging, be great. They put them into the into the flower room, and eventually they would just start deteriorating. And it took us a while to figure it out. And then so at the point that he hired me to redo his whole, and I still give him shit. Redid his whole grow, with like up to date, brand new, the whole deal, the rolling benches, the whole deal, and the propane. So at that point in time, I've only heard of 2 people ever in history had bad propane to the point that they put a fillers in the propane. And it's poisonous. It's poisonous to the plant. And even if you change the propane and put good propane or inject clean CO2, the plants never come back. I mean, he had a 12 lighter and he was getting like 5 pounds. On a 12 lighter. I mean, it was just killing him like several times. And he didn't know that it was bad propane. It's like necrosis. And I only know, like I said, one person that happened, and it was in LA area, so it wasn't in Temecula that happened. So ever since then, so I rebuilt this spot, and then we killed it that one spot because we figured out what it was, and then we started injecting, and of course, I took all the credit because I rebuilt your thing. He goes, "Fuck you! It wasn't you. It was it was the propane." I go, "No, it was me. It was my touch. It was my touch." But that was funny. So that's something like this, and I forgot exactly how we figured it out. That it was bad propane that it was killing his plants, and like I said, they don't come back. So so it was interesting that you were able to figure this out and overcome that, because that puts people out of business.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of like, what? And I had something like that, and when I was schooling in California, broad mites.
Oh yeah.
Broad mites almost put me out of business when I came to California. Like if I would have figured, I mean, it was just brutal. And I knew spider mites. They didn't even know about powdery mildew until I got to California. But I found out about broad mites really quick. I was in Orville. There's olive orchards.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Grapes. Grape. Vineyards, kind of vineyards and stuff like that. And I had a perfect environment inside, and then the broad mites got in, and that was a learning experience. That almost put me out of one more time I would have put the sign on the farm.
I learned about broad mites when I was still in Indiana.
Really?
Yeah.
Indiana?
Yeah, and so right before I left, and this is early days, and people weren't doing that. People thought I was really crazy back then. I rented a warehouse in Indianapolis.
Okay.
10 lights. Had it on the light movers. I had 4 lights built on a big steel bar hung onto the light mover, moving back and forth, 2 or 3 of those, and
you got broad mites.
Yeah, and so my buddies, as I said, my OGs were growing weed, and everybody would grow big clones, right? So I needed a bunch of clones at one point, right? So I went to my bros, got a bunch of clones, and this is the OG who taught us all how to grow weed. My bro Chris, rest in peace, man, and he's the OG, and he, crazy story, I got to tell about that sometime, but he calls me and he's like, man, those plants are going to be fucked up. He's like, and I'm trying to figure out what it is, because this is time, like, remember, people are cutting thousands of clones. To go smack them outside, he's like, there's a problem, right? And we, like you said, yeah, we'd seen spider mites back then.
Right, at least you can see it. You can see it. You can see a spider mite.
Yeah.
You can see the webbing. You can see a little fucker. So what the fuck is that?
He's like, they're going to veg, okay, bro, as soon as you go to flower, that shit is going to die.
Yep.
And he's going crazy, and he's like a crazy dude, like another level, right? And you couldn't take a weed plant or a weed leaf to somewhere and say, check this, or send these in, right? So he's like cutting off pieces of these leaves and taking them to like IU and Purdue, to the colleges, and to these, people, and like having them inspect them and he called them cyclamen mites back then, which is essentially broad mites, right? And he's like, I found out what it is, bro. He's like, I found it out. He's like, and this is back in the day when we didn't know about pesticides, so he gives me some gnarly shit.
We didn't know any better. Probably it was either forbid or
this is
forbid, or what was the other one? Forbid.
This is before then. It'll come to me too. The other one, but
the other one.
This is
there's
Indiana.
two of them. Forbid, and we've
so
all, like I said,
we
didn't know any better. We didn't know any better. And then we've all used a lot of stuff back in the day. But like I said, we've learned over the years. Obviously, you learn over that. But so you guys had the broad mites.
Yeah. So we ended up spraying the gnarly shit and fixing it and getting rid of it, but that was a lesson back then of like, wow, these are, like you said, these are bugs you can't see.
You can't fucking see them.
This is a different battle.
Necrosis,
but it helped. It helped, on that learning path of finding out about IPM and really being on top of your stuff, because if you want to grow, preventative, and always acting like, you want to avoid those problems, and just helped us, because even if you didn't back then, once we moved to California and everything, if you weren't on it, you would have spider mites or whatever, and this, like, you wanted to have your room clean, you wanted to make sure you always,
And just like we all learn, like once you have bugs, or if you don't treat them right, you get an infestation. An infestation, you're never going to have a great crop. So the cliche or the saying that says, an ounce an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So you learn how to be preventative. IPM is integrated pest management. So then, you use a lot less. Like if you have bugs, then, they tells you, okay, so preventative, you use XYZ mils per gallon. If you see bugs, you increase it to this.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an infestation, you use this much. You never want to use this much, because at the end of the day, you're killing the bugs. Kind of like you're killing the bugs, but you're also hurting the plant. If you're using oils and alcohols, it's kind of like when you have cancer. You use chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is killing the cancer, but it's also killing the patient. Which one's going to get killed first? The cancer or the patient? It's killing both of the people.
Yep.
So integrated pest management, you want to do the pesticides as often as preventative, but very, very light.
Yep.
So if there's anything that's alive in there, boom, you're killing it, and you're stopping it from developing and creating an issue.
Yeah, and I feel like I said, a lot of that helped us to be on top of that and always really be concerned with it, because we evolved into that. Like I told you, I was making BHO in the early days, and it quickly became this thing of quality. We started doing live resin and doing these things, and if you had plants that were sick or had bugs and stuff, it affected the quality of not only your flower, but if you were making live resin or making these other things,
taste too.
BHO, color or taste.
Taste, yes.
And so, we wanted to make sure that we had that pure,
Plus, you were smoking it too. You were smoking it yourself, so you definitely want to make sure that you're not putting something in there that's bad for you.
Yeah, and we talk about this. We didn't know better back then, right? Imagine, and we're going into a hydro store where it's a hippie dude or a dude from the neighborhood working behind the counter. He doesn't know any better.
He don't know shit.
He's like, this is what they tell us to sell you, right? And it took us as a community coming together and learning and finding out, that if you actually do it right and you actually, like you said, do it preventatively and do it actively and consistently, and are spraying in veg and doing that stuff, that you can do that, and you don't need these gnarly chemicals. You don't need this, the Eagle 20s or the Floramites or the, all those different things that.
I never used Eagle 20. Like I said, we didn't know about powder mildew until I got here, and then I happened to get powder mildew. But I washed my plants with water. But I used I used Eagle 20 one time outside the building. I had blackberries, blackberry bushes, freaking with the thorns. I mean, they're brutal. And then I had PM out there, so I got. Everybody said about this fucking Eagle 20. So I went in freaking. I posted Eagle 20ing the blackberry bushes outside the facility, right?
Outside.
And I got roasted on Instagram. I didn't fucking, you're killing the bees, whatever fucking shit's in there. You're killing the bees, and I feel like such an idiot. Like, oh my god, fucking what an idiot! I didn't know.
We didn't know.
I didn't know. I never used the shit again. Oh. But I was just trying to get, because I figured the PMs out there, you have intakes. We would use intake stuff. So I'm thinking, if there's PM out here, it's going to get inside. It's going to come inside. Mm-hmm. So I figured if I stop it, once I got the broad mines, I would use pesticides outside the building. Any penetration. Yep. I would do a 20-foot swath around the, around the building, because I had a 3,000 square foot building that was steel, surrounded by olive orchards and vineyards that had bugs outside, and you have a perfect environment inside. These bugs want to get in, so I would use pesticides outside to keep them from going in. Once you have broad mines, I want to make sure these fuckers never get in. However they got in, I want to make sure they never got in. The dogs were never even allowed. I had fans on the door, blowing, any bug that was trying to get in, out. You become really, really clean, and I'm a pretty clean person. So, but anyway, I felt really fucking bad that one time that I used, Eagle 20 outside on blackberry bushes outside. Yeah. Because they're killing bees.
But that's why I always say I'm thankful that, that the education happened, right? And we were able to learn that, we can use the things that aren't bad and use that as preventative and do it right. And that was all part of the testing process too, right? Of like, okay, now we're in Cap 4, but even before, where it was like, even before any of these things, when it was like became, when we went recreational and the testing, they put it in the testing that you couldn't have this or you couldn't use
gravity, bush load.
Yeah.
Any of those the PGRs. What do they call it? Paclo.
Yeah.
Paclo's the name in I didn't know what Paclo was forever. Because I didn't Paclo butyl. Paclo whatever that is. So people always think Paclo, but we used the OG, which is the Australian thing for kind of like the gravity, gravity and the bush load and all that kind of stuff. We used it in Florida because that's just like you said earlier. You go to the hydro store and the guy, hey, this is fucking awesome. This is you use this and it bushes the plant out. It stops it from growing. We were growing indoors, 8-foot, 9-foot ceiling with an HPS. Yep. We didn't want the tall plants, so they told you if you gave it this, it would stop
flowering immediately.
It started the flowering. It would stop the stunting the growth.
Yep.
That's when and we in Florida, we used it to stop the vertical growth of the plant. We didn't go above and beyond like the Californians when they kept fucking putting that shit into it
more and more
because it would get solid, hard, like a pound back then. It was like this. Yeah. And I couldn't sell when I was growing weed in California at that time. I couldn't sell my weed to dispensaries here because I had natural fluffy weed, and that's not what they wanted at that time. They wanted that fucking rock hard nugs that were like marbles, and it was all PGR weed. It was crazy.
And it would mess up the terps and it mess up with the trichomes.
How the fuck are these guys getting these things that are solid? And it's like, man, I can't get it like that. Well, I didn't know. I didn't know at that time. But I guess I was doing the right thing at that time.
Yeah, no, I steered away from it too, just because, like you said, I like the weed that looked,
You know what I call it? I call it weed. Well, I call it the English muffin weed. It's got nooks in the crannies. You know what I'm saying? The was about the English muffin. It's got nooks and crannies. It's not like the white toast. It's like, fucking flush. Cut with a knife. Yeah. Kind of like when they have these balls that look like perfect balls. I like the nooks and crannies and a little bit of foxtail here. A little. The crowns are popping out. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So anyway, let's go back to we got the orchard. That was a 6-story. Yeah. 6-story. And then so what happened with the commercial? Because I know I read on here that you guys actually won a few high time.
Oh yeah,
high time cups. Okay, so tell us a little about that. How did you get to that point?
Back then, we were started going to all the shows, right? And started small, going in, getting a 10 by 10, and and doing the branding thing, and we were proud of what we were doing. And I remember seeing, the big guys back then, or whoever it was, the big dogs had these big booths, 20, 40 feet people lined up, and I was like, wow, they're killing it. How do we do that? And then that's why I was like, all right, we got to go big. And we started getting the big booths and doing that. But then again, we were entering back then too. So, and that was when I started collaborating with everybody. Moxie, Critical Concentrates.
Critical, Alex.
Yeah, Alex, good brother,
Alex was
man.
a beast.
Family, yeah.
Alex was a beast.
So, and Moxie's still some of my good friends to this day, man. And those guys were some of the guys who were doing, making some of the best shit.
They were popping. You could go to Critical and freaking back in Chalice in those times. And
L.A. Kush, Mike. So we all, back then, Chalice, me, Alex, Ted Alien Labs, Straight Organics. We all had a big, giant 40 by 40 foot booth together.
Yes.
In one of those big tents. And like I told you earlier, we made a lot of money. Those were.
Oh, those were the days. I don't know if I was telling it earlier, but like I said, it was the day that I was an spectator. I had to grow here, but I really wasn't. And I would post, but I just couldn't still swallow the openness of this weed thing. I go to Chow's and it's, a couple of seed packs, about a bunch of seed packs back then, and kind of see the industry, how it bloomed, and like I said, Alien Labs, and then I see also Blackleaf. Lance is from Florida.
Uh-huh.
He had moved out here. He hadn't made a full move. I was still going back and forth, so I couldn't set roots. Here. I was smuggling the weed back. Get more money for over there.
Yeah,
like I said, that was my plan. My plan is come here, grow it, and then get it back to Florida because I get more money. But a lot of people had roots here, and then sometimes I said, you know what, I'm kind of fucking myself by not staying here and kind of committing the roots. And it took me a while, years, decade, to figure that out. A solid decade.
Oh yeah.
But going to Chalice, like I said, it was crazy because, like I said, I said it before, Cali Plug. He was a beast back then.
Oh yeah.
Still, he would run out of weed and then he'd go to all the other shops and says, "I'll buy all your weed."
Yeah. No, I would.
And you get all the weed and then go back over there and then sell packs.
Yeah. I would see him at
Couldn't believe it.
all the events back then, man. I've known him for probably 10 years, 8 years, and just seeing him crush it all, same thing. And I always loved it. Like, you know what I mean? I just, I saw him doing his thing. It was different than I was doing, but he was, you know what I mean? He was
Everybody's
a
got their
marketing
own
beast.
thing.
Yeah, he had his own hustle. He was doing stuff, He was doing his own way, and he was showing it really open back then, which I think people just hated on it because they couldn't do it and they couldn't understand that he was showing boxes
This dude's
and
fucking
shipping.
crazy. Whether he was doing it or not, or talking about it just to, he got the attention.
Yeah.
And it worked.
And I loved it because, we were doing things like that back then. Like I told you, I knew logistics. I was doing things on pallets. And
I wish I knew you back then, boy.
Yeah,
Ooh, oh, God.
we would have definitely done it.
Yes.
But yeah, no, and those were some of those, like I said, those career defining moments, I feel like, for the brand and for other brands that are watching. And so High Times Cups, we won a few of those with Alex, with Moxie, LA Kush, doing a bunch of collaborations, doing a bunch of stuff with the flower. A Gas House, we did collabs with Gas House and won some events with them. Chalice, and again, we were just doing those big giant, big booths, and those were, it was, blowing the brands up back then.
That's awesome.
Runts dropped at our booth.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
Runts started at me and Gas House.
Get out of here.
At one of the big events back then, and again, and those were big moments of,
Jungle Boys had a huge booth.
Yeah. The two-story. The
Chalice, yes.
The first time they did that, time they did that big booth they did, I think it was a High Times one, was the first one that I saw them do a big, that was my first time I did a big booth. And I remember they had a big crazy line and they did the merch and dropped the shirts. Yep. Remember, that was when they first were going viral, because they did some crazy shirts, and then I think it might have been
the
right
artwork,
around
and then
it might have been right around that time too that they
Instagram.
also did that drone video in the grow. Remember?
Yes.
And that was like a viral moment, and but we weren't far away from them, and both of our booths were like booming. I remember back then, like, oh yeah, this is what makes it blow up. You got to get the big booth, And yeah, they did that two-story booth back then, which was crazy. Which was like, and then back then, it was like this crazy war of the biggest booth and the biggest. It got to Brass Knuckles and these guys building this 3-story with the strip club inside and the,
Kind of the same thing. The same thing happened at MJ Biss too.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
MJ Biss was
Got crazy.
nuts at the beginning.
Yep.
Oh my God, the extraction equipment that was at MJ Biss for years, it's like, dude, it was like, dude, some of the extraction equipment would be almost fill this whole fucking,
Literally, yeah.
this whole store.
Yep.
It was these vessels were like, are you freaking
Yep.
kidding? Who is? Who,
What are
who
they
the hell is
doing with
ever
that?
going to put
Yeah.
that much fucking weed into that thing? It's funny because you don't see none of that shit no more.
Nope.
It's freaking crazy.
Or the people who did buy it, it's in like a
Oh no, that's just scrap metal now.
scrap. Yeah, it's like they're
It's
like,
like
they're like
super
take this and get
expensive
it out of here.
stainless. So then, all right. So then you went from San Francisco, and you did the high times.
Yep.
How the hell did you end up in El Dorado Hills, by
So we sold the grow in Santa Cruz, in Watsonville, and that was the beginning of Adelanto days. So I was working on a project in Adelanto. We were growing down there, and Natura was just getting built. It was still dirt on the ground, but those are my bros. So I was coming up here, and then that was like also 5 years ago was the time when a lot of these Sacramento grows were starting to blow up. You know what I mean? So, you know, it was like this started to be like this. That was when this started to be like an indoor hub up here, you know. And so I was coming up here and going to a bunch of grows and connecting with a bunch of my friends, and I was doing this loop, man. I was driving from Santa Cruz to Sacramento down to Adelanto and LA and running around, and I was like, man, I got to cut out part of this, part of this loop. You know, it was right after COVID had ended, and it was like, you know, like I wasn't, you know, Santa Cruz was like, all right, it was cool, but like I said, I didn't have to grow there anymore, and it was like just one of those moments. It was like, all right, time to move on and figure something out, and we started looking at stuff out here, and my wife finds this property out, you know, because I'm like, oh, just find us a house in the city, you know, whatever, just get us, you know, find us a place and we'll just move, whatever. You know, she's like, nah. She's like,
what year was this?
this is 2021,
Okay.
5 years ago.
Okay.
She's like, nah. She's like, so we ended up going out here, find a nice 20-acre property out there, El Dorado Hills, big house, got a second house, got another garage, and I was like, all right, let's go, let's do it. And you know me, like even back then, I was like, nah, I'm not gonna grow weed there. You know, no, I'm done doing that.
Listen,
I build big grows now. We don't need any.
ever
small
since,
shit.
even to this day, I don't grow weed in my house, but even to this day, if I go to a house, I evaluate the house right off the bat. How many lights can I put in the
How
garage?
many amps do we got on this
How
property?
many amp?
Yeah,
It's like the wife goes straight to the kitchen in the fucking master bedroom.
Yep.
I'm going to the garage.
I'm looking at the power,
I'm
looking at the garage.
If everything fucking shits a bed, how many lights can I put in that garage? How many amps does the fucking
Yeah.
the
And
service?
even though, like I said, and I didn't need it, I still had that thing down in Adelanto going. I was working with a bunch of bros here and this and that, but it's just like now, that's when I really got into breeding, right?
Okay.
And that was when I really got into, all right, now we're in a world where it's like you got to keep bringing on new stuff, right? Making new strains and doing new stuff. And something that always sticks in my head, and I tell a lot of people this, you know, back in Santa Cruz, I was hanging out with some of the bros in Bodie. Green Bodie was there, John, and he was, you know, breeding back. He's been breeding, right? That was his thing. And
I just met him not too long ago.
oh, great guy, man.
And it was, it was fully by accident. It was fully by accident. We're driving to go to.
Well, I think I saw you guys post it.
We were going to Skypack because Sweets, you know, Chris from Sweets, the guys that the roper machines, he got a space over at Skypack. You know, they let him, you know, use the space there. So we're gonna see him, and we pulled in. It's a complex.
Yeah.
There's like 4 or 5 grows.
Yep,
You know what I'm saying?
yep.
And we pull in, and then the gate opens, and then we pull in, and then we see Brett from Darwin Farms. You know,
Yep.
Old Doja. You know, he's building a grow in there. So we pull up, and then we see him. We see him there, and so I yell, "Hey, you know my famous words. You know what the fuck you doing?" 'Cause that's what, the guy that I used to work for when I was young, he used to always pull up to the job site, you know, freaking all clean cut, it's freaking hot as hell. He goes, "Hey, you know what you're doing?" So I kind of adopted that from him. I stole that from him. And so I go, "Hey, you guys know what you're doing?" You know, a bunch of guys that know what they're doing, but busting their chops. And then, "Hey, come here." So then we got out of the car, and then those guys, Green Bodie, and then they were doing that tour.
Yep.
They were by DNA, you know, a couple of days before. They happened to be up here. And hey, man, can we go to? I was telling him, hey, my girl's like freaking, you know,
Right down
eighth
the
of a
road.
mile.
Yeah.
You know, just right over that building. Can we go check it out? I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go, let's do it. You know what I'm saying? So we went and opened up the doors, and we gave him a quick tour of the spot. So
Yeah, that's
nice
cool.
guy, nice guy.
Yeah, great guy, man. And again, he's been breeding and you know, another guy who's shared stuff and part of that group from back then who actually put a bunch of these genetics out there to the world. I remember him saying to me back then, you know, because I had some fire cuts back then, right? And we were growing fireweed. And he's like, man, that's really cool. You got some great cuts. You got some great genetics. He's like, you know what's really cool? Making your own. And I was like, okay. I was like, all right. And that just stuck with me, right? And even back then, it took me a long time because we didn't have time. And I was going to say, too, back then when we would meet at those High Times events and Chalice and everything, a bunch of us would get together. Billy from Moxie and a couple other bros, right? Because everybody would drop seeds at those events. And, bro, there'd be lines and stuff would sell out.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
Capulator.
Yeah,
exotic Mike.
Yep.
Exotic Mike.
Yes, exotic genetics, Mike.
Who else? Those Swamp Boys.
Yeah, Swamp Boys, fuck yeah.
Who else was it? Dude, those were the baddest.
Rocket.
You know, longest lines.
Yeah,
those
bro.
guys had to make, dude, easy, 300, a 500,000 bands,
Bro.
in that weekend.
And you would have to
seeds.
get there quick and early because the seeds you wanted would sell out, right?
Yes.
And the line would be, like you said, bro, there'd be 100 people in line. So we'd all get together. We'd all piece together our money. I'm going to Cap's booth. I'm going to Crockett's booth. I'm going to Swamp Boy's booth, right? So one of us would all go to these different booths and get the beans, and we'd all come back together.
Yeah, there's only be so many.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Oh my
and
God.
come
yeah,
back
those
together
booths were
and
the
split
hottest
our beans
booths.
up.
It was crazy. That's why actually people from around the country sometimes went to those, because I did.
Yeah.
I bought a
Yeah.
bunch of.
That was a big
I bought a
thing.
bunch of seeds. You know, you go there to get the seeds. You
Yep.
know? So that's interesting. Off topic before I forget. I never skip a shameless plug. Hey Bodie, I heard you left Foch. Come see me, kid. Let's go. Think Early D all day.
Yeah.
All right, back to business.
Yeah, no, yeah. you know. Come on over. Come on over to the real ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, but anyway, that stuck with me when he said that, you know, and it took me a few years to start doing that. Like you said, we were popping seeds, right? So I'd start popping seeds and doing stuff, and then, you know, in these last 5 years or so since I've really been out here, first year I moved out here, that's when I started. You know, I took some mail, popped a bunch of stuff. All right, I got a mail. I'm gonna hit it to all my stuff, and started making these crosses, right? And now that's like the new addiction. That's my new high, right? Is like hunting, finding the new thing, making the new crosses, and building that. And I never sold seeds before. I didn't really even start doing this to sell seeds, but now I realize it's like, let me spread this stuff out to the world. People will pop it. They'll find winners, right? And hopefully give me a cut too, And
It's funny that you say that because I've never been a breeder, and I just started doing it myself roughly about 8 months ago with a guy that works here, Ricky.
Yeah, I remember.
Califunkia, and I just started, my breeding journey, learning from him, and we bred a bunch of stuff at the facility, and done a bunch of pheno hunting, and just like you said, it's like you everything that you've done about growing, you're kind of doing it again in this small little tent, but it's like exciting again.
Yeah,
it
is.
rekindled a fire. Like I wonder what's going to come out. And I'm really into the breeding now. That I mentioned to you earlier that I like the breeding. I'm popping seeds, but I'm also something that I told you that I was going to do. That you said you'd be willing to jump on board. We were just talking before the podcast, something that I wanted to do a long time ago, and the first person that I believe I offered it to was Carson from Genetics. The kid is out of the Oakland area.
Yep.
He had the baddest delivery. He had a shit ton of fucking strains.
Yes, he did.
The kid's been around for a while. He grows some fucking fireweed, and I was going to offer him this. We talked about him possibly running the facility. At the very, very beginning, things changed or whatever. He gave me a bunch of seeds and some weed, and then when I moved to California, the movers fucking robbed the weed out of my refrigerator, out of the garage, and I didn't notice it, but the seeds were still there. So, or I forget exactly what happened. So he gave me some more weed or seeds again. They might have got some seeds, but anyway. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to offer to some breeders in California the same opportunity that Kim Rivers, the owner of True Leaf, gave me. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You know, and obviously, like I said, some people say, hey, you know what, business has got to work both ways. You know what I'm saying? You got to make money. You got to make money. One person can't just do all the labor and the other person, you know, make the money. It's got to be cohesive.
Absolutely.
You know, whether there's marketing, this and that, but it's got to benefit both parties. So what I was telling you is that, you know, I got a nursery. I can do 60,000 clones, you know, per month, 230,000 clone batches per se, you know, because every 2 weeks. And I was going to offer these to breeders. And John Edix is the first person that I brought it to a long time ago. But kind of like I said, I was so busy doing a million things that I kind of that fizzled out. And I just called them again not too long ago. I offered them to come on the podcast. And also I told them, hey, let's talk about that licensing branding deal that I offered them. I also offered it to a couple people. Absolute Alan, fucking breeder for years. Tsunami Seeds, and it's, you know, let me get your breeder cuts. You get to call the shots on what we're going to price it at. You're going to help me market it. So, you know, obviously a $10,000 cut per se, you're going to sell one or two. You know, you get a percentage, and you know, you don't want to price it down because it'll dilute, you know, the cut. But somewhere that works for the breeder, you know, or and me, you know, because I'm going to do all the work, but we're going to both market each other. It helps, you know, legitimize my nursery, my brand, my cultivation space as a place that has real genetics from the breeders. And also, I want to also put that cultivar in the rec market and give them credit, you know, as, you know, for them, you know, and maybe whether it's a sticker or mention or you know, or bag collab something. And then give them a percentage of that too. You know, I want to be able to do that to some key breeders here in California.
I think that's a great idea. I love that idea, actually. And there's some people who are doing it, and some nurseries who have gotten famous cuts or breeder cuts or some of these other cuts, and I just don't know if that relationship is there. That I feel like with you, like you do the marketing too, you understand, you get it. You know how to go out and sell it. I would love to do something like that with you. Just
every person I've talked to has said that, you know, this model works everywhere, especially in Europe. They pay.
Yep.
Other states they pay,
Yep.
but for some reason California does not pay. And then to me that's weird, because why wouldn't I? You know, like if you gave me your cut, you know, and I'm making money selling your cuts and your product into a rec market, and you're collaborating, you're making sales happen. I'm making money. Why would I want to pay you? Why would I want to pay you? Because if I pay you, guess what you're going to do? You're going to go run your mouth and say, hey, go to this place.
More,
So I just don't understand why people aren't getting paid. I don't get it. You know what I mean? If I pay you, you're gonna market, and
Yeah, like I said, I just feel like maybe that relationship isn't there. The people who have this history or have really lived this like you do, like we do, I don't think you've seen that collaboration or that synergy happen in the industry as much yet here, or at least in California, and you know, someone who understands how to do it and how to do it right, and you know, so I think that's what it is. I think that's.
That being said, like I said, I run into you in Czech, in the Czech Republic. I ran into you. I think it was in Berlin or Spannabis.
Yep.
You know, because obviously you're over there. You know, you're around the world doing your thing, promoting your brand. I read in the questionnaire shit about Thailand. Thailand and stuff like that. What's going on with, I know that you're in Florida too. What's the company in Florida?
Yeah, in Florida, it's Ianthus. The stores there are called Grow Healthy.
Grow Healthy,
so
okay.
Just like you have with True Leaf there, we've got a licensing deal down there.
And by the way, this dude was in Florida when I was doing a True Leaf promo, and he dropped by.
Yeah.
He came by, fucking showed love. He spent, an hour or two at the booth with me. It was hot as hell. We took some pictures, but he happened to be around the area. I said, I'm going to come out. We were talking. I was telling him in Florida, and he happened to just, show up, and then we kicked it. We're all in this together. We're all friends. We're all trying to, make some money, but we're all definitely support each other. That's something that's kind of unique too here in Sacramento area too.
Yeah.
So anyway. You're in Florida and Grow Healthy. How many stores?
25 stores right now. And we've got, I think there's plans for about another 15 hopefully this year that they're going to get open.
Okay, sick.
So, and that's going really good. We've got rosin, we got flour. They've got a bunch of my genetics there.
So you grow here, like I'm assuming that you have like a small grow, let's say in the garage, where you can breed.
Yep.
And kind of test these genetics, these cultivars. You pick out which one's the winner, and then you license them out to to places like Florida or around
Yeah,
state. You're
everywhere.
New York.
Yep, Florida, New Jersey, New York, Nevada. Ianthus, we have Florida. We're doing New Jersey and New York with them also. We're about a month out from having a brand new state-of-the-art everything facility in New York built. So I'm really excited about that. Great team there that they have that's really, just coming together to do everything there. And I've been in New York for a few years since the beginning. We have Synergy out there that I've been doing, just testing the waters because, it's been taking some time for them to get evolved. And just like we were talking about, there's not many good indoor grows on there yet. So we were just doing some of the, I did do some genetics on a couple farms, just like some depths and outdoor stuff. And that was all that was available there. So we started slow just doing that. And I did that with Synergy just to get it started. But now we're starting to have, like I said, this indoor's coming on that we have the banana deal with them there. And I'm working Synergy, and getting some of the, some good indoor that's starting to come online there, which I think this concept you have for the container, just small, I think that's the perfect bump start for a lot of people that are just coming along, self-funding. New York set it up very difficult where not a lot of people they made it hard for anyone to come and invest or get investment money for a small 3,500 light grow. Like, how's an investor gonna?
Yeah, when I leave here, the owner of Trollmaster is at my house right now. He just got back from Colorado. He was doing some business over there, but he's at my house. I'm gonna go bring the container thing to him because you seen that badass.
Yeah, I think that's amazing.
That badass thing down there. I'm gonna see if we can put that because just like you said, it costs a lot of money. It costs millions of dollars, millions and millions.
Yep.
To build out a spot, but they'd love to be able to put one of these badass things in a bodega, and then put another one.
Yeah.
So they don't have to. You can spend them, 5, 8, 10, 15, 20, 30 million. They can start small and grow from there, and then later on these containers can become breeding or little pet pea projects.
Yeah, everything R&D, right?
R&D, exactly. We all need to do the R&D.
And no, I think it's just perfect because also New York is very compact, so there's not a lot of spaces that, especially in the city, right,
Yep.
to have a big area or a big space, and a lot of these guys again are just bootstrapping, right? So if they can get in for $100,000, couple $100,000, and get something going, get started, get their brand built, get going on the market, and that's something I talk about here. We thought, I was involved going back a little bit to how I got that first license, which was the first in the state. 2016, we got the license in Watsonville. It was the very first in the state.
Really?
No one before that. There were some others.
I was reading that.
Yeah, there were some other licenses, like Humboldt had those 1 acre things or some of these things, but it was still just kind of this like, there wasn't any paperwork. This was go in front of a city council, get approved, go to planning with a set of plans, right? And back then, like to build out a couple hundred lights, like, it was so hard to find a real electrician or HVAC guy that would come and and do that. They're like, oh, I can't do this. You might have a bro who would come do your garage at your house or whatever, some small shit, but like do something big like that. They're, this is risking my license. Oh, this is.
Oh yes, they were definitely scared of cannabis. Yeah, they don't want to touch it.
Yeah, or something big like this, no plans, no, you know what I mean. So to be able to actually go submit a set of engineered plans with HVAC, with electrical, and do everything. 2016. That was even before we went rec. So that was the first, I think the first of its kind, and because we were early doing that and pushing that line.
So you're a guy that's born in Indiana, moved to Florida, been hustling this whole time. I consider you a legacy guy. You're a legacy guy, and now you're MSB. I used to call myself an MSO, but that's incorrect. I'm an MSB because I don't operate in Florida, but I got my brand in Florida. So multi-state brand.
I like that.
You like that? Yeah.
Love that.
MS multi-state brand because I operate here, but I don't operate over there. But I am also in that state. So we're MSBs, multi-state brands.
Yeah.
What kind of advice do you have? Because there's a lot of people that watch these podcasts. Because they say, "Fuck, how did these guys do it?" You know what I'm saying? What did they have that I don't have, or what did they do that I could do? They're trying to figure out, how guys like that us happen to end up in this situation. And obviously, it's luck, skill, timing, era has to do a lot with it.
Yep.
What kind of what kind of advice do you have to somebody that's, up and coming? It's got, everybody thinks that they grow the best fucking weed, by the way. Nobody says, hey, I grow the shittiest weed. Everybody says I grow the best weed. So, but, there are some people who do grow good weed. And then sometimes, marketing is, it's just as important, if not more important than sometimes the product. You can have great product, shitty branding, shitty marketing. Nobody's gonna know about it. If you have sometimes, mediocre product, great branding, it's gonna get somewhere. And I'm not saying that that's his deal or my deal. I'm just saying you have to work every angle and everything to get known and get ahead in this industry. What kind of advice do you have to a younger person of you that of like us that wants to get up to your level? Let's say, I'm saying, fuck, this guy was growing weed illegally like I am, and then all of a sudden now he's an MSB, he multi-state brand.
Yeah, you have to go, and I have this conversation, and I try to, I've got kids, so I try to show them, right? I try to set that example for them because they're trying to make their own path, right, and find their own way, and you have to go all in. You have to be willing to do the work, go anywhere, show up everywhere, show up in every room, have all the conversations, and work hard, right? It's hard work. Just like we come up doing, it's like not scared to do anything. I wouldn't ask someone else to do anything that I won't do.
100%.
But you have to be all in. You have to believe in yourself. If you're going to ask someone else to believe in you, you have to believe in yourself more than anything, right? More than anybody else, right? So you have to believe and really go all in, show that you're willing to do it, show that you're willing to do the work, right? And really go and do it. Now, we've had this conversation just now about, coming from a different era, coming from legacy, coming from before. Yeah, we did it our way, right? We did it a different way, and some things worked for us and some things didn't. And this is what I tell a lot of young people that I communicate with. You got to not be afraid to fail.
100%.
You're gonna fail.
Oh, you're going to fucking fail.
Right.
Well, in a way, you're going to take the L, but that L is not a loss, it's a lesson.
100%.
It's a lesson.
And that experience is priceless. You can't pay for it.
You can't. It's funny because I tell that to my kid. You can't buy experience.
No, you can't.
You can't buy
Same thing I tell my kids, right?
You can't buy experience.
There's only one way to get it, and that's to learn. You got to bump your own head, right? You got to figure it out, and that's what something my father taught me, right? He said, you're going to lose, right? Yep. All you have to do in life is win a little bit more than you lose.
Man, I say that too, I say that all the time. As long as you're winning 51% of the time, and not 49% of the time, you're 1% ahead of
That's it, and you're gonna win, and that's what it is for all of us. Like, you know what, we failed. I don't look back. You know what, I've had failures, and it got me here. Whatever, one door closes, another one opens, and we keep going, and that's what it is. We keep working no matter what. I'm not afraid to do the work. I show up, and that's what some people say, and I love hearing it. People say, "Oh, hardest working man in cannabis," right? But I show up everywhere. You got to be in every room. You got to have every conversation and get to know each other. That's what it is. Me and you seeing each other all over the world and having these conversations.
Having conversations. Yeah. Answering the phone calls, answering the DMs, answering the messages. You got to stay in touch with people. What's the future for Golden State Banana? What's your vision?
It's worldwide banana, baby. We're going all over the world with this. That's what we're doing now. Like you said, I've seen you over there. Europe is just taking off, so I think that's going to be exciting the next 5 years as all that really starts to open up. I think it's going to be hyper speed of what we've experienced it here, right?
Right. So, it's weird. You go over there and it's like back 1996, but with technology, it's like it can pop off at any time.
Yeah.
A little bit of branding. I think what's holding is this GMP shit, GACP, whatever it's called, and this medical crap. It's really like no branding. But as soon as they open up to this, hey, weed's not really the devil's lettuce. It's not just medicine. It's kind of it can be like recreational, like alcohol too. Too much of anything is bad. Alcohol is the worst thing. One of the worst things out there. Weed is not bad, and they kind of, hey, you know what? People aren't dying from this shit. They're going to open up to branding. That's when Europe is going to explode, in my opinion.
And everyone, there's still that little bit of scared of a lot of people to do it, and we're not scared to do it.
Yeah, no, we've been through that shit already. We don't care.
But if you think about it, we grew up and we came up watching Amsterdam and hearing of Spannabis and going to the early Spannabis days. I started going to Spannabis in 2016, 17, and and you know, you get over there and you realize, wow, they've been doing this a long time. Cannabis has been part of their culture for so long, right? And it's just
like
now evolving
Amsterdam's
to
going
be
backwards. I
yeah.
went to Amsterdam a long time ago. By the way, I wasn't impressed when I went to Amsterdam. And I went to Amsterdam and shit in before 2010. I went there a long time. I wasn't impressed. But now it seems like they're going backwards. They're trying to like
well,
criminalize it
I
again
think
or
they're
something?
trying to shut it down so they can open it up, taking a page out of the book here and trying to
Okay.
do it the right way, right?
Interesting.
And I don't know, I haven't been there, but from just what I hear, and I talk to a lot of people over there. But again, you know, it's opening up, it's happening, right? And I have a deal in Canada. We have my genetics in Canada.
Okay.
We're doing the export. We're literally we just had the first harvest up there. We're doing the first exports over there. I'm going over there next month, beginning of April, for ICBC. And that's the thing, is also seeing what it is, right? Going and showing up. I tell people, like, oh, this is like looking at the Matrix, right? I see this. I know what's going to happen, right? Like, but it's going over there. You have to do the work. You have to go over there, do the sales, meet the people. There's a lot of education because it comes directly out of these pharmacies, right? The telemedicine.
Yeah.
You don't walk into a dispensary. You order your prescription online right now. And those are from doctors who are prescribing or pharmacists who are prescribing every other medicine, right? So they need to be educated.
Yeah.
And they haven't seen the brand yet. And then you got a lot of people who are going out there from, you know, with other not as good Canada weed or wherever, Canada, Thailand, Colombia, South Africa, everywhere, right? That's producing right now. And you know, giving them boof. Oh, we want to sell a ton. Literally, they say, oh, we're trying to sell a ton. We're bringing tons over and offering it for, you know, dirt cheap, right? Where no one's done a branded, right?
That's why I say,
And
as soon as
focus
Europe,
on quality.
as soon as freaking Europe figures it out, that, you know, branding is key, it's going to explode in Europe. And then I believe as we have an opportunity to capitalize on some of that, because the California brands, especially in Sacramento area, you know, but all California, you know, everybody says, you know, Cali weed. Nobody says I want, you know, Oregon weed. And I'm not knocking on any.
No.
There's good weed and bad weed everywhere.
That's
I'll tell you
just
that,
fact.
every state.
Yep.
But you know, there's no rappers rapping about Nebraska weed or freaking
Washington or
Washington
anywhere.
weed.
You know?
It's always Cali weed. California's got a special spot in people's minds about free weed, and we can capitalize on some kind of branding deals in Europe. You know, because you know California does put out some fire. You know, the competition here in this area, especially in this district.
Yeah, especially
This district.
right here.
And I've said this before. I'm gonna say it again. There's about 80 plus cultivation spaces in this district alone. There's 8 districts in Sacramento. This district, there's 80 cultivation spaces. There's over 250 businesses in this district that are directly related to cannabis: nurseries, dispensaries, distributions, cultivations. And I know this because I've been going to city meetings and I know the numbers. Plus, we have a store that we also pay for services that shows us where every cultivation space is in North America. You know, the U.S. and Canada. I know every indoor, I know every outdoor, I know every mixed light. So I know exactly what this district has because I have a service and I can just expand and whatever. And that knowledge I bring to these city council meetings because we're trying to deal with these jack boys trying to come in here. And all the money that, you know, we're in the process of going to a council meeting and tell them what an impact, what a revenue tax impact the weed guys, the fucking dopers have in their district, that they need to protect us because at the end of the day, they say that they have no budgets, they're broke, they can't give us no cops. I go, you know, you understand that we don't make the money that we used to make it, you know, back in the day, and cannabis is a cash crop now that is not times 8 like you used to make. You know, it's a 1-to-1, and a lot of these people, you know, you're overtaxed, underrepresented, and a lot of these people are a couple crops or a bad robbery from closing. And guess what? Then you're not going to get your 4%. You're not going to get, you know, your labor taxes. People going to Home Depot, the plumbing stores, and all that kind of stuff. It's going to trickle. It's
Everything.
Trickle down.
Eating at the taqueria or at the local.
At the Wendy's over here,
store,
whatever. Going to the, you know, everything. Everything's affected, and we have a Sergio from Connect Community. He had a questionnaire, whatever, that we all filled out. And we're trying to put all those numbers to go for this council meetings to show, because this area right here, and some of the most iconic brands in the world are out of this area. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it's pretty unique area. So how does a consumer or a guest or not a guest, a viewer that's on the podcast, how do they get a hold of you? How do they get a hold of your
so-
banana in the state?
Yep. So we have the website, www.goldenstatebanana.com. You go on there, catch all the newest merch. We've got the Hitman collaboration bags we just dropped. Doug from Hitman, one of my great friends, started the Chalice Festival. I've heard you talk about him on some of the other podcasts, and we talked about it, how just really revolutionary that was for the industry, and at a time that really was just something that wasn't happening. And he was putting those events on. The biggest cannabis event I've ever been to, most money I've ever made in an event in my life.
My only gripe about the fucking show is that it fucking was in the middle of freaking San Bernardino, which
It was a little hot. It was
Which
a
I
little
understand is the only place that could host that, because not any counties they're frowned on that shit. They frown on weed.
Yeah.
So I understand why you had it there. But I'm just, my only gripe is this: it's 120 degrees in the middle of
it was hot, and we had to fight it out, but that we were all together doing it.
We're all making it.
And
So go ahead.
So we've done some events together, Best of New York and Best of New England, and some events that we bringing him back, and he's bringing Chalice back right now, actually. So super exciting.
Cool.
Catch me on Instagram, golden_state_banana. Also have a few backup pages, 2.0, 3.0. We have the Florida page is Sunshine State Banana.
Okay.
I have Garden State Banana as my New Jersey page. So just kind of trying to stay ahead of Insta and just keep the pages alive. But yeah, I did a couple unique things where connected with just like the local states and did some different branding, right? So we did Sunshine State Banana in Florida. I did Garden State Banana because New Jersey's the Garden State. So just trying to having fun with the brand and doing a couple of these different things, and it's been really fun. So I don't have Twitter, which I need to, and I need to get on some of these other platforms. But when I do, I'll let you guys know.
By the way, it's not Twitter, it's X.
X.
Gotta go with the
Sorry,
times, kid.
sorry. See, I haven't done that one yet, but
I'm on X, but I'm barely ever on there. I can't.
I hear it's great.
I can't get the fucking page. I can't figure it out. It's like, we're all used to Instagram because you can have all your posts and then historically, and then all you're gonna go back. I can't figure X. It's like fucking retarded.
yeah, I'm gonna start playing with it. So we'll learn it.
Well, you guys, I think this concludes the podcast. It was nice to have Nick here and tell us his story. For any of you guys that are interested on the story, because I learned a lot of things that I've known Nick for a while, like I said, but there's definitely some things that I didn't know in there that were pretty cool and interesting. So check it out. Episode 22 again. 22. Episode 22. Nick, Golden State Banana. Once again, shout out to our sponsors: Trollmaster, the future of intelligent farming; Think Really D, the best 4-channel spectrum tunable lights in the world, bar none. Mango Tech Store, hosting this nice setup for a podcast.
Beautiful.
And Mango Juice. If you're not juicing, you're losing. It's a wrap. It's a wrap, kid. Yeah, buddy.
Love.
Cool.